Thought you were Irish, man.
Yeah, I'm just I'm so Irish it hurts. I
Well,
have
the
an I have
Irish
a
are
new
often in pain as a rule.
they're often drunk. But I
Well, why do you think they're in pain?
You're hanging out in the House of Sunny podcast, where it's always sunny, mostly because of your host, comedian and YouTuber, Sunny Loman. Want to know what Sunny and her friends are thinking about this week? Well, here she is, Sunny Loman.
Okay, everybody, welcome to the House of Sunny podcast. It's a day after St. Patrick's Day, so top of the morning to you. I'm wearing green on purpose and gold because I'm really a leprechaun. My daughter made a leprechaun trap in her class the other day, yesterday or the day before yesterday.
Good
And then she
Lord.
came home from school yesterday so excited telling me it worked. I was like,
I, ho-
what?
I hope not.
I know. I was like, what? She's like, the gold coins that I put in my trap were gone. I was like, okay. So she didn't catch the leprechaun. It got her gold coins. And that to her is like her trap worked. She's so cute.
That's so leprechaun.
It's so
They're
adorable
such
having
they're
a
such
6-year-old, I
thieves.
swear. Well, they are, right? They're like not good. I mean,
No,
I just remember them that way.
it's
But
classic leprechaun behavior.
my daughter said to me
Stealing gold.
a couple days ago, she's working on this trap at school and she says, do you believe in leprechauns? And I said, no. Because I figured like if I believe in everything, she won't, like, I'll have no credibility. So I decided to pick leprechauns as the thing. No way. No way.
You tell
Never
her they're
seen
logically
one.
possible.
Don't think they're real. Just so that I can keep saying, oh, yeah, Santa, you know,
Should have told her you're agnostic.
agnostic. Yeah. She's like,
They
what does that
could
mean,
they
mommy?
could exist.
How old were your kids when they stopped believing in Santa?
Oh, about fourth grade. Like my fifth grader now kind of just figured it out in the last year and was pretty upset.
Was he? I'm worried about that.
Yeah,
Like, I'm worried that she's going to feel like I lied to her.
yeah, they do feel that way and they should feel that way because you have been lying to them. But
I
yeah, so they're
figured it
kind of
out in
angry.
preschool. So I'm like, I don't
Oh, it's terrible.
understand.
That explains a
Not,
lot.
yeah,
Dating.
right. The earlier you figure it out, that I mean, it's definitely explains my personality. Like you can see my personality applied to the whole situation and know exactly why it happened early for me because I'm just like
How
born
did you find
cynical.
out? How did you find out?
Well, somebody at school said something. You know, everybody has different families. And I was in
They do.
preschool. I was in a Montessori school. There might have been some older kids in that school too,
Hmm.
because Montessori can go to third grade sometimes. But I was hanging out with a couple girls, and
Kids.
that was the first time somebody said to me, somebody put the seed in my brain that it might not be real. Like at the time, I didn't believe her, but it gave me that first moment of doubt
Mm.
where, oh, some people think he's not real. And then I wrote a letter to Santa, and uh, I wrote a letter to Santa with the cookies and the milk. And I wrote in the letter, can you please draw a picture of you in this box? And I drew a picture of my family in the other box. And Santa took the cookies, drank the milk, and drew a picture of himself in the box and wrote a little, Merry Christmas on my note. And it was my mom's drawing. Like I knew it was her style. Like everybody
Oh
has a
no.
style, and it was her handwriting. And I don't know how I knew this, but I just knew it. And I
You saw
saw
through
that
the
and I was
charade,
like, it was my mom.
of course.
So
You saw right through the charade.
I did.
You know,
And
I saw when I was
that
in
was
first
it.
grade, I saw a box from one of the Batman figures in the garbage of our house. and that I got for Christmas, and I took that as proof that Santa was real. I was like, so it was like a perfect exercise in ad hoc reasoning. Like,
Cognitive dissonance
this
is
must
what
mean
I'd call
Santa's
that.
real because there's garbage here that he threw out. It was
Oh, that's so funny.
specious reasoning.
Yeah. I had also already
Very true story.
realized the Easter Bunny wasn't real because my brother told me.
See, I never believed in that. I don't know what I never really, did you literally think there was an Easter bunny? I don't think I ever accepted that.
Yeah, but when I was like 3, my brother told me it was mom and dad.
Oh, okay.
So I already had that kind of
Mm,
figured out. And then when
man,
Santa,
3.
well, my brother was a little older. So then he told me at 3, yeah, his mom and dad do the Easter thing. They're the Easter bunny
Do we know why there's an Easter bunny?
to
Does anyone
scare
ever?
kids.
I've never understood that myth. Like, where's that
No, I have
from?
no idea.
Something about
Yeah, it
eggs and
should be a
stuff? It's like,
chicken.
isn't it Jesus's resurrection?
And it should be a chicken if it's eggs. My daughter has made
Yeah.
up
Do
her
bunnies
own
lay eggs?
holiday. No.
Okay.
My daughter has made up her own holiday called Kitty Cat Egg Hunt Day.
See, I like that's excellent. It's very that's I
And
could get on board with that holiday.
it's September 13th. She's like, she has this whole thing figured out.
September 13th. Okay.
Yeah, it's just randomly September 13th. And we use the plastic Easter eggs and she puts candy in them and she wears a cat costume and hides them, just like the Easter bunny. Only it's the rest of us then look for it, and then she makes a cake.
And she
That's
makes a cake.
that's the whole holiday.
Wow. Somewhat
Um,
derivative, but it's her own
yeah.
spin on it, her own
And
take.
I know her well enough to know it's an excuse to eat candy and make cake and eat cake.
Yeah,
and wear her cat costume.
yeah, I don't think you should. Yeah, I think every kid holiday would resemble kitty cake egg day or
Kitty
whatever it's
cat
called.
egg hunt day. Yeah.
Yeah. We're gonna have
'Cause
candy and make a cake.
yeah. And she also likes to be like the one in charge of things. She loves to like
Where does
be
she
the
get
one
that
that
from?
I don't know. Don't say that's me, man. I love
I
it
just
when
can't.
other
I can't see where she would be like a bossy.
she's bossy. But it's weird because like a lot of kids want things done to them, but she always wants to be the one doing the thing. So if it's like hair salon, we're gonna play hair salon. She will do my hair, but I can't do her hair.
Oh,
She
she's
wants
in
to hide the
charge.
eggs, doesn't want to search for the eggs. Like, yeah, she absolutely
Oh, so
wants to be in charge.
on Kitty Cat Day, do you look for the eggs or does she look for the eggs?
Yes, I
Oh,
look for the
you have to
eggs.
look for them.
Yes.
Oh,
She gets to wear
she
the cat
eats them.
costume, hide them,
Okay, that's so funny.
and
It's
be in
brilliant.
total control of the situation. Yeah. I don't know where she gets that. And her dad is the unusual person who's literally never worked for anyone else in his life. He has always been an entrepreneur from the moment he started working to today. He's never been an employee. Could never be an employee. Does
Mhm.
not work well with others.
Huh.
And is a very good manager. Like he tells people what to do. He's good about having the vision. He's a very big thinker, lots of energy, very controlling, which is like, I don't know why he picked me. Because,
Opposites attract?
yeah, I mean, I think he would either have to be with like a very
That disproves
passive,
that theory.
right? He would have to be with a very passive, easygoing person who would just go with the flow. But I don't think that would be interesting to him. I don't know. Instead, he tends to pick women who are like, because he was married before I met him to a very smart, very clever, very someone just like me, really.
I was going to
Um,
say, so why did he? There's no
why did they
correlation.
break up? Probably because I am
No,
psychologically smarter. I can control I don't know.
An interesting
I know
distinction.
how to manage the relationship, you know,
As opposed to most women.
as opposed to being at odds all the time.
Hmm. Do you think she was out of control?
I just think she's more emotional than me, like most women. I mean, I'm just less emotional.
You? Well, I guess on a relative scale.
Yeah, and I mean, forgetting the prednisone. Like when I'm not on prednisone, I'm an extremely calm and rational person. You may not think
This
so, but
this is an interesting, yeah, this is interesting in revealing what you think about yourself. So keep going.
relatively speaking, I mean, compare me to other women, I guess. But I have been on pred for a while, so maybe it's hard to
Yeah, no, I
know.
think it's
Hard to
relative.
know who I am anymore.
Yeah.
But like, before I was ill and stuff, like my whole MO was, we're going to talk about this. We're going to,
Oh,
like, I
really?
would, oh yeah, everything was a discussion. I would wait
Conversation,
until I would calm
dialogue.
down. Yeah. I would never address anything in anger. I would always wait and calm down, then approach the situation. I read a lot of books about how to communicate. And then I would go like to my significant other with these phrases literally figured out and memorized in advance. Okay, here's how I can say it to not trigger a defense reaction,
Mm,
because I didn't learn that growing up. I mean, I've
of
come from a
course.
broken home. Um, so I was very deliberate about stuff like that. And I just think as a result, I have certain skills.
Communication skills.
Yeah.
So what happened?
Yeah, exactly. I got older and I said, fuck it.
I know, I was going to say. The book went out the window at some point.
I don't even remember what those books said. Okay. So we've been chit chatting here, but I want to get into really just kind of pop culture news. The only political news I thought was entertaining this week was Joe Biden saying that he told Putin when he met him. What did he say exactly? It was, when I met Putin, I looked him in the eye. I looked him in the eye. I was like, and I said, corn pop,
I I got
you're a
hairy
bad
legs.
man. You're a bad man.
I like children on my lap.
He's crazy. And did you see that video of him coming out and like it was green screen with the microphone and everything?
Yeah, I posted it, I think.
Yeah.
Um,
And they're trying to say, "Oh no, this video is real."
no,
I
the whole
I
thing
have
is a green screen.
I have edited a lot of video. I'm a video editor as a hobby. And I've done green screen, and I am telling you, there nothing looks like that except a green screen. So with them coming out and going, "Oh no, it was just a microphone and and it was an optical illusion," I don't believe
Bullshit.
that for a second.
The whole thing is fake. Plus, it's only like a second of him, like walking down a thing and saying no, and then walking away, and his hands going through the microphone. It's an obvious. The whole thing is staged. Is he
Well,
even
and
alive?
it even looks weird, him kind of walking up in that way. It
Yeah.
looks kind of weird, and
Yes.
yeah.
So did you see the thing about like so Biden said that Putin's a killer, and Putin
To his
said
face, apparently,
it
right?
said it takes one to Putin said it takes one to know one.
Oh, right, because Joe Biden's such a killer.
Putin said that's not just a children saying in a joke. There's a deep psychological meaning to this. We always see in another person our own qualities and think that he is the same as us. And then he added
Wait, who said this?
Putin.
This is Putin's reply.
Yeah. And he said that he wished Biden 78 in good health. He wished him good health. And
Oh,
he said, I'm saying this without irony, not as a joke.
or as a threat.
Wished him good health.
Do you know what? That is so sad and pathetic. I mean, that is Putin being basically saying, this man's sick.
Absolutely. I wish him good health.
I wish him good health. Poor man. Poor man, poor senile man. I mean, it's like, I'm not even going to, it would be so low of me to actually threaten this poor old senile guy. I really just wish he was poor man. I hope he's healthy. At this point, I do wish Kamala would just take over. I don't really like this whole thing. I feel very uncomfortable that our president is
It's like the weekend
so
at Bernie's
disabled.
corpse.
And there's, I mean, there might be people behind him pulling the strings, Obama, but it just doesn't serve this country. I know that even if Kamala takes over, there'll be people behind her, but it just is such a, I feel like our nation is just really compromised in a dangerous way with the front facing guy so disabled.
Are you saying that we need our puppets to be alive?
Yeah, we need our puppets to at least be able to put on the show, right? And one of the things that's super disturbing or really funny about that whole microphone incident to me is that it was so obvious. They can't even fake that well. Like they don't even have the talent and the
technological sophistication.
Yeah, so that's scary. Like the incompetence. They can't even fake their incompetent. They can't even fake a green screen properly. Like somebody didn't watch that video and go, "Hey, that's out of balance." If it were me, I just wouldn't even have the microphones because you don't need the microphones. He could social distance and he could just be like, "What?" You know, he could have done the exact whole thing, no green screen, according to script, and then just overdub the audio questions. But instead someone's like, oh, let's have the microphones poking in there.
So just to step back, we're actually having a conversation about
how
the
to
incompetence of the White House
Yeah.
faking a video
Yeah.
of a completely incompetent and mentally deranged president.
That is exactly what I'm saying.
That's the conversation.
It's bad enough that we have this fake president. It's worse that they can't even fake it with competence.
Yeah.
That scares me. This is our federal government with all of our money, with trillions of dollars. They can't fake a 30-second video.
I kind of think at some point you're going to see the Secret Service just dragging his corpse into helicopter one or whatever across the lawn.
There was a guy on TikTok who got in trouble.
We're not going to even pretend anymore.
Yeah, right. Well, they aren't. I mean, the guy hasn't done a press conference since he took office. Like, they're not really faking it. There was a guy on TikTok who did this series of Tom Cruise deep fakes that were super realistic, and it got like all this buzz, and he had to like apologize and go, oh, I didn't mean for people to actually think that I was Tom Cruise. It was all fun, you know, it was funny, but it was so good that people thought it was him.
So let me ask you this.
And I'm saying a guy on TikTok in his spare time.
Yeah.
He's got a job. He's got a day job. In his spare time, he's making a deep fake that is better than the ones the White House are putting out.
If they explicitly just started going out with Biden's corpse and like putting his dead body on a screen and someone like just moved his mouth and they dragged him across a stage.
Yeah.
How many people do you think how many Democrats would still vote for him over
all
Trump?
of them? Do you remember when
50,
Hillary passed out?
Yeah.
And then like Hillary,
awesome.
Fake Hillary came out of her condo and it was so obviously not her. She was wearing sunglasses and it was like an hour later. And,
I'm fine, everybody.
And it wasn't her. And, you know, you could tell that it wasn't her.
Mm-hmm.
And they did that whole thing. And that was really obvious. They had video of her passing out and Democrats are still like, oh no, that never happened. So
they would still vote for him.
They are so delusional.
Then again, I would probably vote for a dead Trump over an alive Kamala Harris.
Right. But we'd say,
can't be hypocritical.
But we would say we're voting for dead Trump. We wouldn't say, no, he's
difference.
Really alive.
Yeah, I wouldn't try and pretend. I'd say.
We'd be like, oh yeah, we'll take dead Trump.
Someone halfway decent is pulling the corpse around. And
dead Trump is better than a live Kamala. We'll admit it.
Yeah. See, we're the
Exactly.
transparent ones. That's what we believe in, transparency.
Yeah. So speaking of that, our first topic is this Steven Crowder video. So just to catch you all up, he he does this show. He does like a nightly talk show. He has several co-hosts. They're regulars, and there's a 2-minute segment, and I will link to a Twitter. I couldn't find it on YouTube. It's been pulled off YouTube, but I'll link to a clip, which is I found it on Twitter, and I'll link to that in the description. But it's a 2-minute clip of them goofing on black farmer reparations. And I guess the Biden administration is pushing for or has passed this basically fund to just give money to black farmers because 100 years ago they were discriminated against, I guess. And that is actually a fact. Something happened. I remember reading about it a little while ago, but anyway, it's not our problem. But so Steven Crowder's goofing on this with his co-hosts, and they start making jokes about black culture, weaving black culture humor, ridiculing or mocking, giving money, that there
Right.
would be black farmers, and that what would they grow? They'd grow Hennessy or something. Like, it was very much taking black culture and going, what the hell? They're not even farmers. Like, white people are the ones who put farms in their neighborhoods, like in their urban neighborhoods in the dirt. And it was just from
It was
my perspective, someone who grew up in the 80s, and Doug too, I'm assuming. I just played it for him before we started the show. This is like how people used to joke.
right.
You
Totally.
used to always make fun of different cultures and races without any shame or feeling like, I mean, and I'm talking all cultures. So, right before we started, Doug and I start joking around about the Irish. We were making like a few jokes. I'm wearing my green. I have a little Irish. I don't know what we were saying, that they're depressed and they're drunk all the time or something.
I didn't make fun of
Obviously,
anybody. I treat all cultures equally.
right. Obviously, not all Irish are drunks, depressed drunks, but it's kind of a trope, right? So it's
Yeah.
fun to make fun about it, and it's funny. They don't all eat shepherd's pie, but I had corned beef last night in honor of the Irish, and I'm sure not all
Weird.
Irish eat corned beef. There's probably some vegetarian Irish. So nobody thinks, oh my God, you're not being an individualist, you're being a collectivist. Oh my God, you're being a culture racist or something, a xenophobe. If you make fun of the Irish, if you talk about what they eat or that they drink too much or that they're typically depressed, nobody thinks that you're not being fair. Everybody just like, I'm joking around about that, and I realize I don't have a tinge of it being inappropriate. But if I joke around about black people, I know I'm being edgy, even though there is a distinct black culture. And that doesn't mean that all black people are like that. It's just a thing, right? I mean, can we all relax? So in the 80s, that's how it was. It was the same. It'd be like making fun of the Irish, the Polish, the Chinese, black people, like the Japanese versus the Chinese, who are like the same race kind of, but you can definitely point to their cultural differences. Nobody was uptight about it, and guess what? We didn't have the same racial tension we do today. There were no race riots. There were no it wasn't like you had to walk on eggshells around black people in the 80s, and they weren't, well, as far as I know, they weren't walking on eggshells around us. I don't think they were. I grew up in a black neighborhood. I didn't experience that. So, um, I'm sure there was racism. I'm sure there is racism. That's not to discount that there's racism. But I think that it's really important that we can joke around about each other. I think it actually helps people get along, to acknowledge our weaknesses, to acknowledge our cultural funny things that we do, our quirks, to laugh at ourselves, to laugh at each other. That is a recipe for getting along. And this more tense, the more we are caring about this, the more tense it's getting, and the more people hate each other. So it's not working. This like, oh, let's be careful. Let's not joke around. It's not working. That's what I have to say about that. And
Well,
I
and
read it.
it's the
Go ahead.
same, the joke is the same joke that black people would make about themselves. You know, white
Yeah.
people joke about white people, you know, it's, they're clearly like, if there were no defining cultural characteristics, then we wouldn't be talking about cultures and race. No one would, you know, there are defining characteristics and they're funny.
They are
And
funny.
what's funny is that they are distinct. And so when Dave Chappelle or Chris Rock or Eddie Murphy make fun of black people, everybody laughs. But if a white person makes fun of black people, it's, oh my God, you know, burn it all down. And same going the other direction. You know, black people make fun of white people. Who cares?
Yeah, who
That's what's
cares?
funny. White people are funny. They have weird, like white people have, you know, there's a white culture, man, you know, so
Yeah,
we,
we're more uptight. We're more uh
oh, hello there. You know, that was like the
yeah,
what
it's like
Eddie Murphy stereotype of white people was freaking hilarious because
very
I
hilarious.
never
One of my
thought
favorite
of how black people
view
saw
us.
white people until I saw Eddie Murphy like being a white guy, and I was like, oh my
Yeah.
God.
One of the funniest sketches is when he dresses white. This is back in the SNL days. He puts on white makeup and white hair on his hands, like white makeup,
Yeah.
and he goes out to see what it's like to be a white guy in society, and he finds out that everyone just hands him money all the time.
Everything's free. No,
Everything's
take it.
free, like stuff that it's like this whole like secret society where of white privilege basically. But the joke is that obviously that's not true. That's like what a black person imagines is true. I mean, the whole thing is like layers of hilarious. And
Total
I
genius.
would love to get back to that point where we can actually do ethnic humor again because it is really funny. It's some of the funniest stuff. And it does help people get along. It diffuses tension. And, you know, it's not like when somebody makes a joke. I mean, Steven Crowder on that same 2-minute clip, they made a joke about white people with their urban farms because white people are always farming. Like it's like this. No, no, that's white people that farm. It's not black people that farm. Black people are city people. Aren't they? Don't they want to get away from farming? Isn't that part of what they wanted to do? Like this is all part of what they said. And um there's nothing particular, there's nothing anti-black about that. You as a white person, I laughed at the urban farm thing, which totally is like a white leftist urban, I'm going to go make a farm in a plot in an empty lot and call it like socially awesome. You know, it's just kind of a weird thing to do.
Yeah, it's
The urban
hilarious though.
farms.
Right.
Um anyway, so am I just wanted to express how sad it is to me that that's over, that you can't joke around like that. I don't know if I don't think Steven Crowder's apologized for it or anything, but he's definitely getting he's being moved now into the white supremacist category, which is wrong, you know?
Well,
But he
wasn't that,
often does racial humor. He has an Asian lawyer and he calls him, he refers to him always. This guy is on his show a lot. He refers to him as his half Asian lawyer. Like that's what he calls the guy. So he's always joking around about that stuff. Anyway, he's one of the few comedians who's been willing to joke around about Muslims, um, which is another cultural thing. So hopefully he's not sorry for what he did. I think 20 years ago it was normal.
well, what's weird to me is it seems like there's a contradiction in that we're all supposed to pretend that like race and different cultures don't exist, but at the same time, we're supposed to acknowledge diversity and that there are different people and different cultures and they're all, they're all different and so on.
Yeah.
So like, what is it? Are we supposed to pretend that people aren't different and that there are different groups and different cultures and races and ethnicities all out there? Like so what's more awkward to like carry on
Yeah.
that lie that, oh no, like there, it's like when you're describing someone in a room, you can't say, well, it was the black guy. Remember that black guy that was here? No, you just said there was a guy here. Well, he had a blue shirt on, and you
Yeah.
can't say that it was a black guy because somehow that's racist. That's so stupid. Like, not
Yeah.
to acknowledge this. What's more awkward and weird and divisive than pretending something
Yeah.
isn't real?
Maybe that's why I mean, I'm not 100% sure why it creates more divisiveness not to be able to joke around or acknowledge stereotypes, which are based on true kind of norms. They just are. Um, you can joke about white people and their Budweiser, but you can't joke about black people and their Hennessy.
Right.
You can joke about,
Rednecks or whatever.
yeah, I mean, there are rednecks. They do drink Budweiser. They are a certain kind of person, and there are black people in the hood who drink Hennessy, and that's a kind of type, you know. But there's something about that denial of reality, first of all, that does create tension, and it makes you resent the other person. I think the fact I can't be myself, I can't say what I know and acknowledge reality. Deep down, you kind of resent it. You feel stifled by that person. Then there's that, but then there's also laughter just works between people. Like it just works to be able to laugh at yourself and laugh at other people in a good humored way. Um,
Yeah,
it
and I
just
think
works for
I,
getting
I
along.
I think that like one big thing that people get tripped up on is the difference between like aggregates and individuals. Like when you make a generalization about a group, like farmers or jocks or nerds or whatever, or races, ethnicities, you're making there are like aggregate or average attributes that everyone kind of knows. Like there's a distinguishing characteristic that makes someone a jock. They like sports and they're like athletic or whatever.
And
Um,
sometimes stupid. I mean, like I was a jock, and there are a lot of stereotypes about jocks being meatheads and dumb.
right.
And I didn't feel that that meant me.
But
Like
that
I didn't.
there's
I
an
mean, it's
average
like,
of there's like an average that makes that group that group. There's like an aggregate characteristic. But does that mean that every jock or every farmer or every nerd is exactly the same and has that exact average? No, there's a whole spectrum and distribution. There are brilliant jocks and there are stupid jocks. On average, there's kind of like meathead jocks and bro guys. So like we refer to that because it makes life simpler to think in terms of these groups and stuff. And if you reverse the logic and say, okay, you are a jock, therefore you are the average, you are stupid, and you are this or that, then yeah, you're inverting logic and that's bad and that's untrue. But if you go the other way and just say, when I think of a redneck, this is kind of what I think. These are the defining characteristics and average. That's totally natural, reasonable, and rational to do that because it's simplifying how we think about the world. I would never like, are we literally, when you look at reality, you literally go out and see every single person as a total individual? Like our minds can't work that way. When you walk down the street, you're instantly characterizing and grouping characteristics to help your mind evaluate reality. Like if you see someone who's like dirty and unshaven and smells and they're talking to themselves, I wouldn't say, well, I really need to get to know that guy to know if maybe he's a college professor. No, he's crazy. I've got 3 seconds to make a decision. I'm just deciding that that guy's probably a schizophrenic or a drug addict. Even if I'm wrong, I don't care. I have to do that in order to protect myself. So not to go on a big diatribe about it, but I think that's part of the problem here is like not understanding that by grouping, that's totally okay. And it's also not mean spirited necessarily, where because of racism and because of past people who attributed only negative characteristics to black people or to some
Yeah.
other group. Therefore, we can't group anymore, and we can't even think that way or acknowledge that there are differences. That's not the right approach.
Isn't
That's
that grouping us today with people from the past, and maybe even not all people, but just some people?
yeah,
Again,
it's a
like if
totally
some
false
people,
stereotype.
if some people are racist, that doesn't mean that we all have to act a certain way in order to prove we're not. Like, it's like a black guy will say, I should be able to wear a hoodie and walk down the street at night and not be considered dangerous. But they want to paint all of us with this racist brush because there are some racist people.
Right.
And then I'm supposed to never make a joke about things I see that are real. Um, I
Exactly.
don't know. And the thing is I think it's really important to remember how things used to be. It's really important, not just how they used to be like in the abstract, but inside, that you used to make these jokes and not think about it at all. And the tension is new because of this woke shit, because of, PC. There didn't used to be this tension. You didn't used to walk around feeling like you couldn't joke around with your black friend. Um, you know, or and I don't even like where this is going, because where this is going is where white people are having to band together and be like, okay, we have to be our own minority now, and we have to be our own oppressed group and assert our right based on our skin, from a skin color place. And then you see people on the right, or white people, I should say, saying you can't joke about us. And you see Asian people now. Asian people didn't used to be like PC activists, and now you see more of that because they have to get their own. They have to protect themselves. But
Right.
I don't want black people not to joke about white people. I like it, and I find it funny, and it's a way of connecting, actually. Um. So
Did you,
anyway,
did you see this guy that said to this point about whiteness, that whiteness is a pandemic? We see
yeah.
this
So
all the time. It's a public
let's.
health crisis.
Yeah, so that was really disturbing. It came out in, I think I can share my screen, and actually I think I actually saved it on my. So this guy wrote in the Root, right?
Yeah.
His name is Damon Young. Oh yeah, I do have it. Awesome. I'm going to share the screen. You can see this craziness. Sadly, we have a new stereotype about black people. This kind of black person, like this kind of black person is becoming too normal, that now, I mean, I guess I could joke about it, but it actually is disturbing to me. Okay, so this guy wrote, this is really funny. Somebody mashed this up with an article he wrote a while ago. But he wrote, whiteness is a pandemic. This is Damon Young in The Root. Whiteness is a public health crisis. It shortens life expectancies. It pollutes air. Whiteness, okay? It constricts equilibrium. It devastates forests. It melts ice caps. It sparks and funds wars. It flattens dialects. It infests consciousness, and it kills people. White supremacy is a virus that, like other viruses, will not die until there are no bodies left for it to infect, which means the only way to stop it is to locate it, isolate it, extract it, and kill it. This man, Damon Young, wrote that, and it was published in The Root. And this is to your point on your podcast that you keep making about postmodernism. It's really not about skin color, it's about ideology. Because he also wrote a few years ago, straight black men are the white people of black people. So that's kind of funny. I think what he would like to do is just send anybody not of his ideology to a camp and kill them.
I
I
think
mean,
that's what he's saying.
I think that is
Because
what he's saying.
he talks about whiteness, and then in the next paragraph he says white supremacy. So in my view, he's saying whiteness is white supremacy. There's no distinction, that ideologically to be white, quote unquote, is to be a white supremacist. You
Right.
can't,
So the
which is the
idea,
whole critical theory idea.
yeah, you're a white supremacist if you are at all politically right, whatever your skin color. And I mean, Candace Owens has been called a white supremacist by this group. And, you know, Clarence Thomas and, you know,
Mhm.
this sunshine is driving me nuts. And I can't get away from it. There's literally no shade on that window.
So there's no curtain.
We don't usually do our podcast at this time. I didn't know. Plus daylight savings time. Everything's weird. So yeah, he says here, it's not going to die until there are
House of
no
Sunny.
bodies.
It's literally
no
the
bodies.
House of Sunny.
It is. It's not going to die until there are no bodies left for it to infect. So that means black bodies too. So you have to locate it, isolate it, extract it, and kill it. You have to treat it like a virus, like COVID. You know, if you have it,
it's a medical emergency.
if you have it, you need to be isolated, extracted from society, killed, so that you can't infect another person. This is the most 10, you know, was it 10 years ago in 2010? The white supremacy, the white privilege stuff started. And I said, this means white genocide. That's what this is going to mean. And people thought I was making a big leap there. But here we are 10 years later, and a guy can write something like that and have it published in a major publication that a lot of black people read. So.
And just substitute Jewish or black for white in that article. Like, how would that play? And the thing is that is the ideology, that they can disproportionately make these kinds of genocidal claims with impunity.
Yeah.
Just because whites are the dominant power or something like that, or, you know, some pseudo justification for total racism. And it is literally a genocidal philosophy that's going to lead to a physical,
it's going to lead to
violent war.
People being murdered. Yeah.
And if you want to promote racism amongst white people, that's the way to do it. Because I mean, if those people are going to say, hey, we have to kill you because you're white, like you're a zombie, like a Walking Dead plot or something, then, well, I guess white people then have to all get together and like.
We already do. We already have to start like, okay, white people, you have to start standing up to this stuff. You need intellectual ammunition to go to your school boards and say, this equity stuff is it's racist. I will not have my child taught that she's bad because she's white. I'm not going to have her, you know, put into a struggle session where she admits her crimes as a white person that she hasn't committed just because she's white. And like that, all of this is racist. You need to have intellectual ammunition to go to these places and fight this. And unfortunately, that means white people have to get together and figure out how to defeat this stuff, because people are going to start killing. They already are. I mean, it's just not, there are a lot of crimes against white people. The whole knockout game that was being played, and you saw that. I mean, there's just endless stories of black people hurting and killing white people because they're white. And nobody's talking about that, but everyone, and there really aren't that on the other side. Every single incident that they can possibly blame on race, they try to, going in the other direction. But it just doesn't, it's just not common anymore, you know. Not saying it wasn't at one time, but anyway, okay. So speaking of black culture, and actually Puerto Rican culture, or actually, am I talking about stripper culture? I don't know. Cardi B performed at the Grammys, and she got into a big Twitter war with Candace Owens, which is kind of humorous. You can go look that up and see what they said to each other. But what do you think about, you know, speaking of pushing back on cultural things that bother us culturally, I I don't find Cardi B particularly, like, I don't go, oh, she shouldn't exist. What disturbs me is that it's so popular. That scares me, that she's a best-selling recording artist with a song like WAP, and that at the Grammys, she basically did a stripper show, and she was a stripper. And I don't want my daughter looking up to people like that. I don't even want her looking up to like Lady Gaga. And there's just, I see a lot of this kind of thing down at her level too, where the cartoons that she's watching and stuff, a lot of the female characters are presented as extremely sexualized, swaying their hips, wearing, little crop tops. Like, it's an early version of becoming, later on as teens, then they get all this Cardi B stuff, which is literal stripper culture, being pushed to little girls as cool.
What do you think that the theory in their minds are in terms of portraying that as glamorous, like the stripper life? Obviously, they think in some way it's heroic or romantic or glamorous to be like this promiscuous stripper type person.
Well, if you step back and look at it,
I thought feminism was all about being against that,
they're saying, women can do what they want with their bodies and it's empowering, but selling themselves to men for money. Do you want to, what is going on over there? You getting some emergency calls?
No, it's just a station alert.
What does that mean?
That it's like that there is some type of weather outside. I get an alert every day. It's very exciting.
Okay. So there's some weather outside.
There's something happening outside in the sky.
You get an alert.
I do, literally. I'll be like, an alert. It's sunny and 55 degrees.
Okay.
It's very empowering.
There's some weather outside. I guess when you live where you live, you do have to be concerned about that.
That's right.
You never know. So
is this is like a new form of feminism or something that?
Well, I mean, that's their stupid justification, but we all know that inspiring young girls to be strippers isn't, I mean, what is the point of anything? Is you want to have a good life and you want to be happy and healthy, and being a stripper is not that kind of life. It doesn't lend itself to happiness and people with, productive achievement. Cardi B aside, it's mostly a devastating, horrible life. And those people who do it are sad, desperate people who are very, very mixed up, with really big problems. And most strippers are whores. That's not like something people don't know, right? I mean, they're hookers.
Slippery slope.
I don't even know if it's a slippery slope. It's like, it's the job. And yeah, I don't know. I mean, I find it sick that that's where our culture is at, is that she's presented as some sort of ideal to reach. The cool thing is to be, and you can see it in all these other celebrities too, in the way that Kim Kardashian dresses, in the way Beyonce dresses, Jennifer Lopez, like they all dress like strippers.
Remember this Netflix series that came out with the little kids that were dancing like that?
Oh yeah. And, like 11-year-olds.
They're like sexualizing children now at this. Like I'm really trying to get within their own logic, because I could see the feminist, oh, we shouldn't objectify women and pornography is, a form of male domination. And, this is what the feminists were saying, I don't know, 10, 20 years ago, from a postmodern perspective, that, pornography socially constructs the toxic male, and we have to eradicate this objectification of women. Like I can get that as a theory, it is an ideology, whatever my problems with that theory are, but now it's gone the other way, and now we're supposed to sexualize children, and women are objects, and they're strippers, and um, this is some form of empowerment, or I literally don't get it. Like what sort of logic pretzel do you need to create in order to justify this in terms of modern feminism? Like, or do they just say, well, that's black culture or something like that, and that would be white, or a form of whiteness to
I don't know if
have
it's
some sort of
whiteness,
like
but
moral take on this.
hasn't the postmodernist movement always been interested in turning people into slutty, lonely, childless freaks? I mean,
Yeah, I
it
guess so.
seems like it's always gone hand in hand that um if you look at the 70s and the hippie movement and all of that, it was very, very hedonistic, very much about
Free
casual
love,
sex and drugs. And
no
this is just
standards.
more of that, I think. Yeah, just
So
more
I
of
guess,
that.
that's a good point, because in terms of like the actual standards of ethical relativism, it's kind of, because I guess I always thought it was strange that the feminists had this sort of like moral take on pornography or something, when the basis of postmodernism and critical theory is ethical relativism. So maybe this is more an honest representation of subjectivism. There are no standards, in your face. This is like a flip your finger at the prudish, um,
Yeah, and
Christian.
all choices are good choices. It is moral relativism. Yeah.
Yeah, it's just my choice is to be this, and I can be whatever I want, and in your
Right.
face, and screw you.
Candace Owens had a good reply at one point where she said, you're the one with the bad marriage or something like that. Like, because they were, anyway, because Cardi B she had a baby, and then her husband cheated on her, and then they got divorced or were getting divorced. Now they're back together. Like, it's the typical thing. Okay, so let's move on to, I have
We're
a
not.
mini royal report, just a small one.
Now it's time for the House of Sunny's Royal Watch.
Apparently, so on Monday, Gayle King, Oprah's bestie, who has, I can't really figure out what the woven relationship is. I guess Gail's on CBS. The interview was aired on CBS. Oprah had a contract with them. They must have included Gayle kind of being part of it or whatever, because she's had some updates like subsequent to the interview, some insights. And so Oprah said this, like, it wasn't the Queen and it wasn't uh, the Queen's husband, Prince Philip, who said the thing about the skin color. So she's had these various updates. And one of them on Monday was that she spoke to the Sussexes over the weekend. She spoke to Harry, and Harry said that he has talked to his dad and brother, and it wasn't productive. And he just, like more of this kind of like, basically dishing about his private conversations now with his relatives as he's trying to mend the damage he did with the interview or address some of those issues with them. And the Queen said, we're going to do this privately. And he's had private talks with them that weren't productive. So now he's going to come out to the tabloid morning show journalist and tell her that they weren't productive, that he's disappointed, and then they had the freaking gall to say, the media has made this about race, when really it's it's like, wait a sec, wasn't it Meghan who made it about race when she said that the whole reason for leaving the family was that they said that they were concerned that her child might
Yeah,
have dark skin, and that he didn't get a title he wasn't entitled to because he's got maybe this dark skin and like all this BS. She's the one who made it about race. And now they're complaining that the media is making it about race. I mean, this is crazy. They are literally nuts. So, what struck me about this is that Gayle King tries to present herself as like a distinguished journalist. She speaks in that very journalistic way and has this very always calm demeanor. And she, you know, her credibility is very important to her. She's a Walter Cronkite of a female Black woman. And yet she's willing to reveal. I mean, if Harry had said that to me and I was a journalist, I would be like, I don't think I'm going to air that because that is going to destroy. Like, they're not going to have private talks with him anymore because anytime they have a private talk, they know he's just going to tell Gayle King about it or Oprah or somebody. Like, why would you ever? It's like, you know, how sometimes people, Matthew McConaughey recently came out and said that he didn't speak to his mom for 8 years after she took the media in and dished on him and showed them his bedroom and like it was like too big of an invasion of privacy. And so he stopped talking to her. And what do you think Harry just did with this? Like behind the scenes, these phone calls didn't go well. And like they're supposed to be in the midst of trying to communicate. And he's dishing about it to the world. And if you're Gayle King and you really are a respectable person with any sense of like personal integrity, do you even reveal that? Because you know that it's really, really bad. You know, they might not get it. Like Harry doesn't get it, but Gayle should get it. I don't know. I would have a really, really hard time, even though it's a scoop. I would have a really hard time putting that on air because I would know that that would ruin forever any relationship building going on between Harry and his family. You know, it would
I don't know if
feel
that's
really
her
icky.
job, though. I don't know if that's her job. To me, it's more like it's just not a story. Like, what is
a story? What are you talking about? Everyone's interested in this.
No. I mean, the fact that
a curtain. I don't even know my own house.
it's literally like 2 feet from your arm and you didn't see it.
Oh, thank God. That was really bugging me.
Yeah, I was
okay. I was also getting hot.
House of Shade.
It is a story. Of course, people are interested in it. It's a huge scoop that Harry even talked to his brother and dad, let alone that it didn't go well.
Well, then I think she should. I mean, I don't know. I think it's more on him, not the journalist, that he went and behind his family's back and is dishing to the media about private discussions.
I agree, but she's the kind of journalist who presents herself as this Walter Cronkite type. And therefore, I think there are certain stories you should not. There is a moral issue with pushing out a story that is actually going to harm people. I feel like.
Is that going to really harm? But did she try and solicit a comment from the other side, from the other characters?
No, she was just dishing on her conversation and what Harry told her. And like an idiot, they are talking behind the back of their family.
Yeah.
If as a respected journalist is not a tabloid journalist, like there's a difference between what the Inquirer reports and supposedly what the New York Times reports. And so we're in this world now where those lines are blurred and there is no respectable journalism anymore.
Yeah, I would say the problem is that she's not a journalist and she's not respected.
But
she's not respectable.
Right. I'm just trying to point out what she did is actually wrong. I think what she did was wrong. I don't think she should have shared this. I think that it's destructive and she should have kept it to herself. You don't air every story you get. I don't care how big it is.
Yeah.
And I think that she is now, to me, and not that she wasn't before, but it's proof that she's a tabloid journalist.
Yeah.
She's literally TMZ on CBS in the morning. She is as bad as any paparazzi. And she's not a respectable journalist. And we need to remember that when she's all perfectly coiffed in her perfect little outfit with her perfect little journalist voice. that she is a gossipy bitch. You know, I felt like appalled that she would report on that. I don't know. Even if Harry's an idiot, you know, there's a blurring of the lines with what used to be respectable and what, you know, maybe it's more of this moral relativism, but there are standards that good people, and I do this a lot where I say, what would it take for me to do that? Like, could I do that? That's how I sort of assess whether or not what I'm watching somebody do is moral or not, because sometimes we can get caught up in, oh, they look very respectable, they look very presentable, the production quality is good. Like, you listen to Meghan talking about her various things, and then you have to ask yourself, what would it take for me to say some of the things she said about my family, or, you know, or even go on TV at this time? You know, what kind of mentality is it that does that?
Yeah.
And that's a really, like, that helps you get past the veneer of respectability that they project. The left is always projecting this, you know, in pop culture, they are the ones that are more polished and professional. But look at the things they're doing that are just immoral and destructive. I think it's a good lesson anyway. What do you think?
Uh, what do I think about Meghan Markle and Gayle King and the royal family?
Just no, what I said about how I think that the left, because they're in charge of culture,
Mm-hmm.
they project a more professional, polished exterior. But what's going on under that is immoral. And
Oh my God, yeah.
and it's useful because I believe psychologically we are taken in by the polish and the
Oh, that's a
veneer.
good point. Yeah. Yeah.
So like Meghan Markle, she's got an Armani dress, perfect makeup. She can do the tears. Everything's perfectly edited. The questions are just right. And this is, by the way, in contrast to the 30-second green screen failure at the White House. But typically they do a good job of, it's like a show. You're being manipulated. And
Yeah.
what's right under that is immorality in the extreme destructiveness. And if you just think, if there was someone in my life who was doing this, what would I think of them? You know, take away the title and the makeup and the dress and the production quality and just lay out kind of the facts of the situation. And you go, wow, yeah. So somebody did this for the Meghan Markle thing. I thought there was like a tweet or something in a really succinct way said, so let's see, a billionaire or a millionaire duchess who, you know, just made a $200 million contract with Netflix and Spotify would like you to know that she had an argument with her sister-in-law about a dress. You know, like, it's when you cut out all the trappings and you just literally lay out what happened or who these people are, you're kind of like, oh yeah, that's dumb. That's really, really petty and
Well, these
and
people are
whiny.
masters of propaganda. I mean, isn't that the whole essence of the Hollywood and the mainstream media machine, is the ability to create this pretense of respectability and
Yes.
morality and gravity, whether it's the New York Times or Harvey Weinstein or Matt Lauer or Charlie Rose or Cuomo or like Clinton. I mean, this is the essence of these people, is they're all evil.
It's all surface. It's all this. As long as we keep up this pretense, we can do anything and sell it. And it really behooves us to see and to help others see through that veneer. If you just break down and take out the veneer, take out the titles and the wardrobe and the production, take out the, you know, Hillary Clinton with her perfectly coiffed hair and her everything scripted, and getting the questions at the debate before the debate so she can have perfect answers and everything's, and then you just break it down and say, you know, remember when Hillary and Bill took shit out of the White House when they left?
Well,
Like they're white trash from Arkansas. Underneath that, they're literally white trash gangsters from Arkansas.
yeah.
And
Well, and this started, I remember this really starting during the Clinton administration when he, is so obviously like a lecherous televangelist type creep. It was kind of
right,
obvious to everyone, but
like a
he
sleazy
would,
car salesman guy
yeah,
is
yeah.
how
And
he always came across to me.
and he would say something like, but really, what is the meaning of the word is, and
Yeah.
stuff like that. And I remember at the time, the media would say things like, boy, they're just good at spin. They spun us again. Like, we can't get this guy. Like, they would ask him hard questions, but then he would say, what's the meaning of is? And they just didn't know what to do with it. And they were like literally like explicitly almost praising the fact that he was fooling them and spinning them. And that whole idea of the spin machine, that all came out of that era originally, and it was almost like glamorized, like, wow, boy, they're good at politics and spinning and basically they're good at lying, and we're just deer in the headlights now. We're just paralyzed with stymied by how efficient they are at lying to us and how good they are. And I was like, what? Like, who says that? Just ask them the next question, which is, well,
Yeah.
what about this then? Like, you're a fucking
Right.
liar, dude. Like, just, and these people, and you see this, of course, in in modern propaganda as well with the mainstream media, and it's just, they're really good at this. The left is really good at propaganda and lying.
They are. And so maybe one tactic that we can do on Twitter or whatever is if you break down these situations. And so, like, I'm trying to break down Gayle King, a respected journalist, just ran a story about a private conversation that will forever damage the relationship between these royals. And she just ran with that because it's a scoop.
Yeah.
This petty moment that Harry said to her, yeah, when it didn't go very well, that's not supposed to be public to the world. And by making it public, she knows she's preventing any future conversations. Because there's no way Charles, William, the Queen can function normally with a person who's willing to talk to the tabloid press behind their back. They will never trust them. And up until now, even with the Oprah interview, there was still a sense that they could have a private conversation and maybe get somewhere with that. And I feel very sad. Like, forget that they're the royal family. Just imagine that they're like Matthew McConaughey doesn't talk to his mom for 10 years because that's sad. And there are many, many A-list celebrities that went through that. Jennifer Aniston went through that too. You see, like, where family members will talk about them in the tabloids and then they can't talk to them anymore. It's really sad. And Gayle King just participated in that. She's not a respectable journalism. She's a TMZ reporter. So I think pointing out this kind of stuff, trying to get to, like, what are the facts of what actually happened, throw the veneer out, throw the perfect reporter voice and the perfect hair and and think about what she just did. She's the Inquirer on CBS this morning,
Yeah. Yeah. There's really no journalism left. I think they've jettisoned all standards in every way imaginable.
That's why people are watching, new media online, because it's the only credible, decent journalism going on. But did you see that Biden's administration put a gag order on Border Patrol from talking about what's going on the border?
Right.
And the only way we'll get news on it, because of that gag order and the media being completely left, will be if fringe journalists go down there or get a scoop or get like a anonymous source because they're under a gag order, you know? That's the only way we'll know what's happening in the United States on our southern border.
Right, because no journalist will actually go there.
None of the legacy journalists will go
Right,
there.
right. And
Yeah.
then if a fringe journalist goes there, they'll accuse him of being a conspiracy theorist
Right.
because you're not a credible news
And also
organization.
racist.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So this is a great way to control the narrative.
Yeah.
That's what's frightening to me is I've never seen a media environment like this where
Yeah.
it is so one-sided. I just wrote an article or wrote an email to a journalist criticizing them on a local thing. And it's like, I think you got to just keep fighting back against them, write them letters and like
Yeah.
do whatever you can and support investigative journalists and real journalists.
Support. I don't give money to a lot of people. I don't give money to politics. I do subscribe to the real journalists of the world right
I
now.
do
The
too.
Glenn Greenwald, Tim Pool,
Epic Times.
Epic Times, what's her name? Amazing Polly, even though she's kind of kooky, but she's doing research and she's connecting dots. And this is, you know, it isn't polished. It isn't professional. The Epic Times is, and I think Tim Pool is getting more and more so.
The Daily Wire is good.
The Daily Wire. Yeah. I mean, we have to support these organizations and these fringe people. Even if you don't agree with everything, you know, if they are a little bit conspiracy theory-ish, I think that's okay because like I would even support InfoWars at this point because where else are we going to get information? We need to support these big media outlets that are going against the narrative, even if they're going against it with BS, to be honest. And like, for me, this is the number one reason not to vote Democrat because Democrats will not be held accountable by the press. You will not know what they're doing. They will be able to do anything. When you have a Republican in office, at least, I mean, not only will they not be able to do anything, but there will be made up stuff against them.
Yeah, we're fighting something locally with corruption in an election. And fortunately, we have a reporter that will even report on it. But most of the press has been coming from like these kind of like right-wing groups. And every time you try and post actual like literal like here are the emails, like here are the actual facts of the case, like an admin on Facebook will deny it, like Facebook will deny it, saying no, you have to have a credible organization. So if you don't have a quote unquote credible news organization, and of course the credible news organizations are all leftists.
Yeah.
So it's really hard to fight, try and fight corruption even locally when you can't get the local press to cover it because they're in the tank.
Right.
And then the city council's in the tank and everybody's in the tank.
If you were to print out flyers and go door to door, people would be like, oh, some kook is putting flyers in the, because nobody does that, you know?
And even if, and I tried even posting like, okay, here's the facts. Here are the text messages and the emails and like, just decide for yourself. And someone said, oh, look at this link. This is from a conspiracy website or so. I'm like, it's the links. It's like it's the email. It's the
primary
source.
It's
the primary source.
Right.
And people won't look at it because it's not, and if it was in the new,
because it's not the New York Times or even I guess the.
So they assess credibility not on their own integration of facts and their own like evaluation logically or objectively. It's like, who put this out?
But they've been masters at this. I don't know how it is that we have been brainwashed to only accept this authoritative expert crap.
Exactly.
I don't know where that comes from, honestly. But the other thing is, I would like to like there used to be institutions that could be trusted, and part of what we're going through right now is realizing that there isn't a single one that is still credible and moral.
Yeah.
And balanced. And even like, I don't even care if there's crappy journalists, as long as there were some that were and could report. You know, you need a Fox and a MSNBC. Maybe you don't,
Right.
but my point is that at least you could like get
do.
a view if you sort of
Mhm.
looked at both. And now you can't even get that. I mean, it's just gotten so hard to figure out what's happening. And we are being completely locked out of what's happening in the rest of the world. I feel like that's like intentional somehow. I don't know. It's really hard to get international news. Really, really hard.
Well, I increasingly feel like there are literally two different worlds. Like if you go to the right wing press versus the mainstream press, you know, you can find like there's like literal testimony of people in hearings talking about election corruption and videos of funny stuff going, you know, like the whole election corruption thing, right? There was like thousands of reports and videos and like, look at this, look at that. And then you go to the mainstream site and there's like nothing. Like that doesn't exist.
Right.
As if, wait, am I crazy? Like, I just saw an elephant, but this site is telling me it's a donkey. Like, what? And so it's not even like shades of the truth. It's like one side completely ignores and says you're crazy to even look over there at that, you know, at that elephant. It's I've never seen anything like this.
It is really awful. It feels like we're in a foreign country with a dictator, the way it is.
You know, when you watch a movie and like the whole plot of the movie is like the hero is going to expose the corruption and he's just got to get the tape or the evidence or the file to the press, to the reporter. And he's got to get across town and like the bad guys are trying to kill him because he's just got to get it to the news station so that they can broadcast it. Now I'm like, if that guy had the file and he dodged all the bullets and got to the news station, he would hand it to the reporter and they'd be like, this is against Joe Biden. I can't publish this. What are you talking about? But it's a videotape of the of the politician shooting the girl, or whatever. And they'd be like, no, sorry, this doesn't exist.
We don't want that.
Is this conspiracy theory material? We don't publish conspiracy theories, but it's a videotape, like, no, sorry, we're not going to publish it. That's the world we're in.
That is the world we're in. So on that note, support your journalists, your real journalists, wherever you find them, including the ones that are a little kooky.
There are investigative journalists are very, very hard to come by. If you find them, just support them in any way you can.
Cheryl Atkinson is one of those.
Yes, we maybe should have a whole podcast on like the 5 best ones that are out there. Glenn Greenwald is great.
Glenn Greenwald
are like left-wing people, and he's great. He's a hero.
He's a hero. These are Democrats.
Absolutely.
Are Democrats. Yeah. All right, everybody. Hey, thanks for joining us today. And I don't know when we're going to do another one. Maybe next week. I know we took a little bit of a break, but it's mostly me with my ongoing health issues. And some weeks I'm up for it and some weeks I'm not. Probably next week I'll be up for it. So just keep your eye out. We'll publish when we can and give us some comments about what you want us to cover. I know we didn't really cover any current news today, but I think we had a good time talking about culture. All right, everybody. We'll see you next time.
There is a house called the House of Sunny. It's filled with satire and fun. It's been the demise of bad ideas, and we'll know what's right when she's done. So download this free podcast now and give perspectives you may lack. It's concise and right and achieves world peace, guaranteed all your money back. Last time, ready?